I like to wear a black Brioni suit on the first day of Art Basel. The first people through the gates are all millionaires. Now some of them are billionaires. I used to know them all, especially in those first 2 hours when only the veriest of the very important people are let through the doors. But there's a lot of new money that I've never even heard of now. They know me, they've seen me in the trade papers, sometimes in the mainstream papers, but I don't have a fucking clue who they are. I just know that if they come into the fair in those first 2 hours, then somebody thinks they're important. So I need to think they're important. And I can't let them think for 1 second that I'm not important. Hence, the suit. I'm not gonna button up for them. This is how people know me. Art Basel in Switzerland is the most important art fair in the world. It takes place every June. The little airport just over the border in France is usually a dead zone 364 days a year. But in the day before the fair opens, more than 100 private jets land at it, bringing in just about every major collector in the world. Venice begins a few weeks before Basel, and Venice is where people in the art world tell each other that we're all there to appreciate the art. But in reality, guys like me and Larry Gagosian are making deals poolside at the Cipriani Hotel. At Art Basel, there's no pretense. Sure, we're all here because we love the art and we want to help our artists' careers, but this is a trade show. We're here to sell, sell, sell. But this year, I don't know how things are gonna go. For one thing, the fair's organizers gave me a crap stall. All the other blue chip dealers are between me and the entrance. I'm a little nervous that my favorite collectors will pinch their millions by the time they see what I'm showing. That's between you and me, obviously. These interviews are still just on background, right? It's been a while. I don't have much space in my stall. You can see we have a couple of Celia's sculptures that are tied to performance pieces, and we have some photographs from those performances. But I had to beg her to throw that stuff together because she hates working on it. That's completely off the record, by the way. Do not tell the collectors that shit. I need 5, 6, 7 stalls to show what Celia wants to show. But the track record with those is not worth paying for all that extra space. We still haven't sold the apartment building, and we first showed that 5 years ago. Yeah, we've loaned it out to a couple of places, but the logistics for it are a fucking nightmare. Only a museum could ever spare enough space to show it. But it was so goddamn expensive to make that we'd need to sell it for $3 million just to break even. That might not sound like much when you hear about a Cezanne going for $60 million. But women do not fetch anything like that. Even the dead ones. And for a film? Get out of here. Museum curators might be interested, but once they hear the sticker price, they realize they'd need to put it on permanent display in order to justify the cost. And if they put it on permanent display, they'd practically need to build a new wing to make space for it. Curators can't convince their boards that Celia is a safe enough bet for so much money. Now, with a woman who's only 35 years old, I might normally say that I don't blame them. But really, fuck them. You know how long Celia's gonna be here? Forever. Take this work, for example. You won't believe it, but we dug it up from her high school days. We just shook the archives in our basement, and it just fell out of nowhere. Even she's excited to sell it. It's rare that you can sell an artist's teenage work when they're only 35 and still alive. She was pissed at me, though. She wanted me to sell this thing months ago. Yeah, she needed more money to work on her latest monumental piece to follow up the apartment building. I tell her, hold on, sweetheart. You're not selling it. I am. And I know it's hard to wait, but we'll do much better selling this high school film in Basel. If we get a handful of major collectors from all over the world to look at this thing on the same day, they'll start competing with each other. It's not an auction, no. The secondary market is... ugh. But I know we'll have demand here, so we're going to sell it here. She never understands that, though. No. She says, Patrick, I'm not waiting anymore. Let's just sell this film so I can keep working on Boxers. Boxers. Boxers is the monolith. I was so happy and pissed when she insisted on making it. Last year, Basel started Unlimited. It's where they show the massive works that can really only be shown in museums. Museums do send curators here to buy, yes, but Unlimited is really for the collectors who plan on donating the pieces to museums. The collectors who want to be on those museums' boards, and to add more prestige to their names. Boxers is insane, mind-altering, but I don't know who will buy a 30-channel film for $7 million. Where is Kelly with the champagne, by the way? This thing starts in 5 minutes. Artists generally do not attend Basel because it is a meat market, and everyone can see how disgustingly capitalistic our work ends up being. We attended Basel that year, however, because we needed to install Boxers. It was the debut of a major work, an enormous work, so Celia needed to oversee its installation. I've never seen so little of a foreign city that I visited for an entire week. Now, another artist told us that he did a relatively short walk, only 2 hours, that started at the Kunstmuseum in Basel, and it took him across the Rhine into Germany, and then back across the river farther north to a bakery in France, and then back along the Rhine into Switzerland. Celia and I, on the other hand, were in Unlimited for days, and then we left for New York to continue working on 5 other projects. I could have been in Cincinnati and not known the difference aside from the overpriced Spätzle. And the worst part? Gallery Lelong had a Mendieta show in Zurich while we were there. We had flown in and out of Zurich, and Celia wouldn't even go to that. You can feel the electricity in the minutes before the fair opens. It gives me goosebumps. My husband always laughs because my shoulders start popping. Like this. Pop. Pop. It is funny. That's how excited I get in the queue. It is without a doubt the only time you'll see so many wealthy people actually standing in line for a queue. Women with alligator skin handbags, men wearing watches they could trade for full tuition at a wonderful private institution. Believe me, dear, some of them make a fuss about it. The new money, those gauche collectors, we often hear them complain about how the queue is a personal offense to them. It's truly amazing. Just savor the energy, dears. I always enjoy the looks that the Swiss security guards give to these ladies and gentlemen who believe they should be allowed in early. I haven't seen icy stares like that since Anna Wintour walked out of Karl Lagerfeld's Fendi show in '93. The gates, dear, always open on time, and the moment the gates open is the fastest you'll ever see a pair of Manolos move. After attending the fair for 15 years, my husband and I have perfected our entrance. You want to reach your preferred dealer before anyone else, but you don't want to rush through the halls as if you're pushing to the front of a A Bruce Springsteen concert. You simply must be more dignified than that. I believe it is called power walking. That is what our legs are doing anyway. Fast, powerful strides toward the gallerist. But here is the trick, and I will give it to you for free. You must move your arms at their normal sway. It's quite complicated, to be honest, making your body move at two different speeds, but it has the wonderful effect of retaining your dignity while getting you to where you need to go. I swear I have seen a gallerist turn down one of these gauche collectors because the man practically ran toward the stall. Unbelievable, isn't it? Harry and I prefer to act as casual as we can when speaking with the gallerists. We don't want to appear too eager to acquire a work, lest some other collector sees our enthusiasm and begins to express interest as well, competing with us for the work. I want to be humble about our taste, but eyes are watching ours. You know, Harry once needed to tell a scout for Rupert Taliaferro to please give us some space, because the man obviously hovered over any tick, over any shoulder pop that might tell him we're excited. In order to maintain that casual, what shall we call it, a facade, we dabbled on our way to Patrick's stall. We expressed the right amount of interest at David Zwirner. We let Marion know we'd like to buy the Gerhard Richter from his wonderful transition into the squeegee paintings. We told Janelle that we might wish to acquire the Cindy Sherman, but we needed to think about it. She told us that she would hold on to it until 4 p.m. before releasing it to other prospective buyers. We've collected for so long and amassed such a dedicated collection that many of the gallerists give us preferential treatment. No, that doesn't mean that we aren't nervous wrecks in the first hour of the fair. There was again the little pop in my shoulders. Did you see it? I feel that energy just thinking about it. What Harry and I called Cramageddon. You see, when we finally arrived at Patrick's stall, I nearly fainted when seeing the kramlichs already standing there. Not only that, they appeared extremely happy. This, of course, gave Harry and I small little heart attacks. We already knew that Patrick was showing one of Celia Merode's earliest films. It was known among all of the Merode aficionados. So I was already afraid that we'd see Hogan Jago's art advisor standing in Patrick's stall as well. When the Met finally acquired its first video work in 2001, I emailed Mr. Jago straight away, letting him know how much smarter he is than the Met. He likes things like that very much. We did not know that we'd have even stiffer competition than Jago. The Kramlichs, as you know, founded a trust completely dedicated to media art. And if they planned to acquire the Merode, Patrick had good reason to sell to them instead. Well, I don't want to say that their trust would be more prestigious than our living room, but I will give them that. I said please to Patrick before he even finished kissing both of my cheeks hello. Please tell me you haven't already sold the Merode. We haven't even seen it yet. He toyed with me, saying, well, we do have interest.
Now you have passion.
What's that, Harry?
You have passion.
Oh, right. Harry immediately said, and now you have passion. It was very good, yes. Patrick ushered us into the small screening room that he'd constructed to show the Merode. He said that after the fair's first 2 hours, once they let in the second tier of VIPs, you know, that riffraff that only has tens of millions of dollars instead of hundreds? Oh, I'm just making a joke, dear. But once they were let in, Patrick would only show the Merode once every 2 hours. He was concerned that constantly running the film might cause damage. I must say, I believe he did it simply to generate more publicity for Miss Merode. And good for him, because by the second day of the fair, people queued to see this film that may never be seen again in public, depending on who bought it. Harry and I watched this film in complete awe. She was so young, and the film was so beautiful. When it ended, Harry said, "Darling, do you remember this? Do you remember?" Harry said, "I don't mean to be uncouth, but where might we be on the waiting list?" Patrick said, "Let's not worry about that quite yet. You know that I absolutely adore the two of you. Rather than worrying about waiting lists right now, I highly recommend that you go to see the piece that Celia is showing in Unlimited. I believe that the evolution from this early piece to her latest work will make you appreciate her career's trajectory to an even greater extent." Again, I thought I'd faint, not knowing if we'd have this piece for our collection. We said our goodbyes to Patrick, and we made plans to speak more in depth later. Then Harry and I decided, after this exquisite small film, that Patrick was right. We should go to Unlimited. As we walked past the other gallery stalls, Harry whispered, "He wants us to buy the giant movie." And you remember what I said? I said, "What do you mean, darling?" He said, "If we want the early film, he'll sell it to us if we buy the expensive one." "Oh," I said, and thought for a moment. "Oh no, I don't think we can do that." Harry said he's driving a hard bargain. I whispered back that he hasn't even mentioned selling boxers. Harry said, "Do you remember what you said, darling?" Harry said he didn't need to mention it. Patrick is above that. He'd never say that on the fair's floor, with other people around, but you wait. I'm sure it's what he'll ask us to do. Part of me wanted to love the new film so much that its price was justified for the early work. But part of me wanted to loathe it so that I didn't feel so awful losing the early film. Harry and I walked into Unlimited's exhibition hall. We were alone. Most of the VIPs still perused the gallery stalls, and the second tiers wouldn't be allowed in for another 30 minutes. It was quite nice, actually, seeing these monumental works outside of the cramped stalls of the regular fair. The work in the fair can be quite disappointing, so little craft sometimes. But with these Unlimited works, these artists had obviously invested considerable thought and time into them. We eventually found what appeared to be a forest of white boxes hanging from the ceiling, and more boxes poked up from the ground like stalagmites. We immediately knew that we had found Miss Merode. Fortunately, we saw no sign of the kramlichs. We did, however, see another prominent collector, Diane Skirmerhorn, and Thomas, her... what shall we call him, dear? Ah, yes, her companion, who happens to be 50 years younger than her. Hush, darling, she doesn't care. She doesn't care that Diane's hunchback is bigger than it was a few years before at the Biennale. Thomas, bless him, had outgrown some of his baby fat. Celia's film was so far away from the main entrance that Harry whispered that Thomas must have carried her over his shoulder to get her there. We'd heard about that through friends. He carries her now. The fifth person standing among the forest of white boxes was Anton Gretsch, the curator from MoMA. As soon as he saw Harry and I, he clapped his hands together and walked toward us. He said, "Bernadette, Harry, did you see it?" "No, dear, we just walked in." He said, "Oh my goodness, it just finished a loop. I don't even know what I just saw. It was, oh, you'll have to see, I don't even have words." I suddenly feared that we had even more competition than we'd bargained for. 30 of these white boxes must have stood between us and the main screen, which was difficult to see due to all of the boxes. Then one by one, images appeared on them, slowly filling in the white space. A crowd shot began to form, people in an arena. Heads and shoulders lined up in front of us. More bodies filled bleachers farther away, rafters above our heads with different flags hanging from those rafters. And then the last white spaces were filled in like a completed puzzle, revealing the image of a boxing match. From our vantage point, we stood perhaps 20 rows back from the ring, and for the first time in a Merode work, we heard sound, the single ding of the ring's bell. But it rang every 5 seconds. The boxing match had already begun. The bell didn't start anything. If anything, the match started the bell. The two men in the ring pummeled each other, giant, brutish men. Anton whispered, "You must move, you must. I've already watched twice, and neither time was the same. As long as you move." He wandered in between the boxes, now covered with snippets of the boxing match, and the bell continued to ring. Diane's skirmer slowly shuffled from one point to another. She stood in place and lifted a hand. Her man Thomas slowly picked her up and moved her to another vantage point. Harry and I wandered into the film's maze. As we walked past the first rows of boxes, we found ourselves closer to the ring. And while they still appeared quite far away from us, the boxers seemed different. One man remained. He had somebody on the ropes, somebody in a leotard. The domineering man absolutely throttled the other, and the bell continued ringing. The crowd from our first vantage point had appeared to be the type of crowd that you might see at these things in Las Vegas, both men and women, many dressed finely despite the sport's brutality. But from this new vantage point, everyone appeared to be a man. Harry and I walked closer to the screen, past yet more screen boxes, and I grabbed his hand very tightly. We now appeared to stand at the ring, even on the mat. I looked across to see that the crowd was now manic 13-year-old boys, all of them in tattered clothing, screaming, but we did not hear them. And in front of us, crawling around the mat, leaving a slick of blood behind her, was Celia Merode herself. Her face was badly beaten, but we knew it was her. And then she slowly stood up, and she seemed to be looking for the other boxer. She threw punches into the air, but her eyes were swollen shut. She kept throwing the flimsy punches, and the punches threw her entire body forward, making her stumble. The bell kept ringing. She kept punching the air, and then the bell rang once more and the screen turned white. All of the projections ended. Harry and I turned to look back through the forest of boxes. I didn't know if we were in Switzerland anymore.